yeah, in sports talk, besides that, Colin Kaepernick is in headlines again, which has been the first time for a while, unless you closely follow sports, where he's kind of always pops up every now and again because he's currently going through a trial. But
a trial
this week he's everywhere because Nike, who he was kind of running into the end of his contract with, seems to have made a new deal with Colin Kaepernick because he is the face of their 30th anniversary Just Do It campaign. So what's your history with the Just Do It campaign, you two?
I've seen it written on things, and I used to associate it with sex.
Oh, cool.
Because I was immature and it's funny.
It was funny to me.
Stop judging me.
I have a history with it.
Sure, like it. You've heard of it though, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's probably one of the most famous ad campaigns, like ever.
Yeah, 100%.
Just Do It, Nike, swoosh. So 30th anniversary, they came out swinging. So they had a bunch of different athletes, like what's the tennis lady's name that we talked about last week?
Serena
Williams was part of it. LeBron James is part of it. Some skaters, a wrestler dude, hijab wearing boxer lady, and kind of finally was
Is that a name?
Huh?
No,
I wasn't sure if she was a famous person because it seems to mix in famous and non-famous people.
I don't think she's famous.
But I'm not actually sure of that.
I don't know.
Because no one's really talking about that. They're talking about Colin Kaepernick because he's the dividing line in this kind of campaign that everyone's just raging or loving over.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been that big a deal, if everyone else was in there. It was very non-controversial except for him, right?
They can't, not controversial in the same way.
Oh, what else would have been controversial?
Do you find, I feel like Nike having a hijab would be controversial. Is that controversial?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Because I feel like putting a logo on something like that's meant to be sacred seems like that would be wrong in their eyes. Or am I completely
Wait, did they put a swoosh on the hijab?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's like Nike branded hijab. Oh.
Like a sports hijab, maybe.
Well,
I saw that and I'm like, is that allowed?
I imagine that
wouldn't
wouldn't fly with like a Jewish skull cap thing.
Yeah. But
Yarmulke?
Yeah.
That was cool.
But yeah, no one's even discussing that at all.
Right.
Because
interesting.
So the ad says believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything. Which to give context to this and why everyone's angry about it is because in 2015 or 2016, I think it's just one of the NFL seasons around there, he started sitting down during the national anthem.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it led on to turning into kneeling during the national anthem, and the whole idea was that he was protesting inequality.
Yeah.
Broadly.
Was this after or before because he kind of got dropped as the first string quarterback anyway, because he wasn't doing very well?
I'm not sure. And whenever you actually look up his kind of NFL stats, he's not the best.
No, he had one amazing season where they went to the Super Bowl, right?
He's not the worst.
49ers.
He's not the best. He's somewhere on the list.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
And then I think they got a new one and he was the first string. So he was already not the starting quarterback, I think, when this started.
Yeah. And the way he describes it is, I can't stand for a country that's not standing for justice.
Yeah.
Which is the idea of, I can't remember the Constitution line of justice and equality for all. Is that the line?
I think freedom?
Yeah.
Freedom, justice, and equality for all.
Yeah. So his whole kind of mantra and protest is he's protesting that the country isn't holding up its end of the the deal.
It started around when there was a lot of black men getting shot.
Yes.
By the police.
Because I know it was, even we were talking about it at the time of when you'd see videos of a black teenager, I think it was, getting shot in the back of that car. We covered that story, and that was just insane. And you saw the video of it, and you're like, how are people getting away with this?
Yeah, that was the thing. It was that they're doing the awful things, and then they're not getting in any trouble for it.
Yeah. So it came into it kind of got narrowed down into it was mainly about police brutality because that was the big issue at the time.
Yeah, it was like in solidarity with Black Lives Matter as
Yeah.
a concept, right?
Same kind of time.
Yeah.
Even though he actually, when you watch the 20-minute interview, which I did of him after the third game, which is before he'd even started kneeling, because a lot of the initial reaction that was negative about it was you're insulting the troops because the flag represents people who represent the flag, which is usually the military, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of military ties with the NFL. So a lot of what they do is related to the army and stuff.
Yeah. So I know he talked to a guy who was former NFL and a
Veteran.
in the military as well.
Yeah.
So he was kind of in both worlds, and the kind of compromise they came to, and they said you still need to respect was the kneeling. So he went from sitting to kneeling after a few games.
Yep.
And that's kind of when it kind of exploded and it just kind of got bigger and bigger, which is pretty crazy because it's not that crazy a thing, but it just kind of exploded everywhere because America's dramatic.
Yeah.
They
are.
Yes,
great
America
actually-
is dramatic.
They're very
That's a
dramatic.
great
That's a
word
good
to
way of
describe
putting
them.
it.
Yeah. But so a lot of people are still on the side of you're insulting veterans and people who've served America and people who've died for America, even though in the original interview that I was just mentioning, like one of the things he said he was protesting is I'm protesting that people who come back like aren't treated right either. So inequality for veterans and things like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, what do you guys think about it in general?
Well, I think it's well, I obviously don't, I'm not steeped in their culture where the flag, like they pledge allegiance to the flag.
Yeah.
Like that's very weird to me. They also play their national anthem all the time.
Don't we do that as well?
I don't think for normal games. So like they'd have a regular season game and they're playing the national anthem. I don't think they play the national anthem before like a Bulldogs
No, they
Parramatta Eels regular season match.
I never go to the NRL, so I wouldn't know. I just assume
it's
they did.
like they do it at the final,
And it's
the
David
grand
Rowan.
final
The grand
and
final.
international matches. But it makes sense in an international match because there's two different countries. But if you're like two teams who are like 20 minutes away from each other in Sydney,
Yeah, no.
it's weird.
We're not playing the national.
So I don't have the contextual background to understand how much people love their national anthem. It seems weird to me that they get this upset about that. Also, because like I obviously agree with what he's protesting, because it's crazy that those people got shot by the police, and those police officers never got in trouble for it. So it was like, okay, you're protesting something that seems to make sense. Like I can see why you're protesting it. It's your First Amendment right to have free speech
Which
and
is
actually be
what's
able to do
fought
that.
for.
Yep.
Yeah, which is what people fight for. And a lot of veterans, like the veterans are all split. They're not just one monolithic group.
Yeah.
Like some of them are like, this is awful. This guy's disrespecting the flag.
It's actually all over the place, the opinion.
Yeah.
of
Some
the
people are
military.
like, this is awful, but I fought for his right to do that. There's people who make the argument like, oh, you shouldn't mix this stuff in with the NFL because it's just like, it's sport. We're just here to be entertained. Your First Amendment right doesn't apply because you're employed to be there.
Then why do the anthem at all? Wouldn't that also be the argument?
Yeah, nah, the patriotism is kind of a given. That's like your status quo in America.
Yeah.
You're not going out of your way to be patriotic. You are patriotic.
Wouldn't the protest be counted as patriotic though?
No, because he's doing it during the national anthem.
Right.
And they're saying that's an exclusion zone of protests. You can't protest during that period. It's interesting because it was happening at the same time as there was a lot of Black Lives Matter protests that were getting quite violent. And it was sort of like, oh, everyone's like, these are like riots. It's like, there's your First Amendment right, but then you can't be being violent, right? It's crossing the line. That's not free speech. That's just hurting people. So then it was like, oh, well, this guy's not hurting anyone. He's not physically breaking any laws. So at what point when is it appropriate for black people to protest was the question that everyone was asking.
Yes.
It's super hard to argue against it when you know all the facts and kind of the sides of it.
Yeah.
And that it's pretty genius in terms of if this is what kind of Trump's angle was, he's definitely tried to kind of hijack the message of it.
Yeah.
And has completely ruined the whole point of it almost, which I I hadn't thought of the perspective of, but I was watching a debate on one of the ESPN channels or something,
Yeah.
and they were talking about how frustrating it is that he was doing such a good thing, but the message has been, it's against veterans and against America. When that's not the message he wanted at all.
No, exactly right.
He wanted equality. He wanted people to stop being treated wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like completely, almost stuffed it.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's almost like a postmodern perspective to get like way too over and analytical on it. But the fact that people don't care about why he's doing what he's doing is weird to me. It's sort of that whole like there's no objective truth. I see you doing something and I will only read it the way that I think it is.
I think that is a huge aspect of it, in that if you just read the headline of this, you could very easily get completely the wrong idea about it.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, he's insulting the country. Stuff this guy. Because there's only so many words you can fit in a Twitter headline, right? Or even just a headline in general. And kind of just more and more these days, you're seeing people review things without even watching things.
Yeah.
And people give their opinions on things when they haven't even done the actual reading or the research. And it's one thing that I always get frustrated at, because it happened to me like twice and I got called out on it, and people were just like, what are you doing? And like, I've just never done it again, because it's just, it's so,
I mean,
it's annoying to be ill-informed and act like you're informed on something.
Yes.
And I think that's a huge part
that's the whole
of
of the
online
internet.
culture. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it sort of, because it happened during a time when people were already polarized for some reason, but like Black Lives Matter was immediately countered by All Lives Matter, right? Like
Blue
people
Lives
were,
Matter.
and then there was Blue Lives Matter as well, because then there was that case where all those policemen got shot in Denver, I think, or Dallas, one of the two.
Sure.
Anyway, that black guy killed a bunch of police officers.
That's right.
So it was already a polarizing thing, because people were like automatically on the side of the cops. Obviously, if you're a racist person, which there are some, you're automatically going to be against the black people. Do you remember the whole George Zimmerman thing, shooting Trayvon Martin? I think that was the first really high profile one.
Was that the one where he shot him on the ground?
That was the one where he followed him through a gated neighborhood because he thought he was like a neighborhood patrol guy with a gun.
Yeah.
And then when the kid got annoyed and got frustrated with him and got in his face about it, he shot him based on the stand your ground laws. So he's followed this kid
Right, standing
with a gun and then ended up in a confrontation because he was following him, and then shot him in self-defense, I guess.
Yeah.
So there was already people were on, people were already polarized on this issue before he jumped in. So it doesn't matter what his message is, because as soon as he says he's on the side of Black Lives Matter, that's all these people need to know. The people on the side who are against that are automatically going to be like, stuff you. When people don't listen to each other, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Mm.
It's crazy. I saw someone had taken the same, the line on that ad.
Can you take this off the screen?
Yeah.
This is
I got
the
distracted.
back end of my video.
I got distracted. Also, I can't really see that.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's the line? It's
If stand for something, even if it means sacrificing everything.
Yeah.
I think-
So someone had put a photo of a veteran with the same line, and they were basically saying, this is someone who actually deserves to have that line said because they gave up everything. I think it was someone who'd been killed. I assume it was because they gave up. That's the idea. They've given up everything, actually given up everything. So.
Yeah, one sad perspective that from that same argument I was watching on ESPN was kind of Nike's using this, and Trump's going to benefit from it because he's catering to his base, and Nike's going to benefit from it.
Trump already managed to get the NFL to force players not to kneel. So now if they want to protest, they have to just wait in their locker room.
No, I think that's on hold.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. They couldn't... Something
Really?
happened in Florida where that's not fully in. So it's not actually solidified whether or not they can or can't for the new season, which is crazy how timely this is because the NFL season's about to start.
Right.
So it'll be super interesting to see if this sparks even more kneeling.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people already have said they're not going to watch the NFL anymore. It's the less popular of the two football things, isn't it? Because everyone is into college football.
Oh.
Like, college football, like, is packed out 100,000 seat stadiums all season long. NFL's kind of like, I think people are...
It's still huge, though.
It's huge, but I don't know. It seemed like people were actually... Didn't Mike Pence go to one of these games? The vice president went to a game at one point knowing they were going to kneel just so he could walk out before the game started.
Of course.
It's crazy. I think it's crazy that you can't protest during the national anthem.
It's especially the flag stuff, especially where it's like you care so much about a flag.
I don't understand why it's so polarizing. Why does it have to be, well, if you kneel during the national anthem, you are against veterans? Like, why can't everyone just be for everyone? Like, I'm for veterans. I'm also for Black Lives Matter. Like, you know, like, there's got to be...
I think that's what most people are, though.
Yeah, but...
Do you reckon?
I
They're
don't
quite
think
polarized.
so.
I feel like most people are one or the other.
Like, and I'm sorry, but I don't think there's ever an appropriate time to be protesting something. It's always inappropriate to protest.
Yeah.
That's what a protest is by definition.
Yes. And that is the point. Like, people were like it sounded like people were getting upset that black people were protesting when it wasn't convenient, when they couldn't ignore it. It's like, okay, I'm fine with you protesting in a way that I can completely ignore so I don't hear what you have to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you protest somewhere else, please?
Your protest is distracting me. I don't want to think about your problems. I think that is the general.
And so Nike is now using kind of this in their ad.
Yeah.
Is that right?
So now
is that
new
where this is
video
leading?
ad came out today, and it's bloody awesome.
Do you reckon it's risky for them? There was a lot of photos of people burning their Nike shoes as if that was going to hurt Nike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is dumb. And it's... You just kind of... You'd hope there's not... I'm always thinking about this. It's like, you just hope there isn't as many racists as, like... You just hope there's not a lot of actual racists.
You can hope that,
like,
Ali,
in the world.
if that makes you feel good.
Like, okay, we're all a bit racist. You mean bad racism?
I mean, like,
right?
severely. Because I think everyone has a little bit, like, in kind of subconsciously in their head, because that's one of the problems, right?
I think there's quite a lot.
I do too.
I think there's, like, because there's something that feels good.
Like someone who actually like sees someone of a different color and says, "I hate you."
Yeah.
Or I think I'm better than you.
I mean, hate takes a lot of forms in that. Like, if you... Yeah, I don't know. I think there's quite a lot. But...
There's probably a scale.
Yes, there's definitely a scale. Because I think we are all racist. Like, I always assume white people food isn't going to taste very good.
Do you really?
I think it's going to be bland. I walk in with that assumption.
What are we talking about? Sorry?
My racism.
Oh. That white food sucks?
Bland. Usually.
Okay.
Well... Your nation's food is very
strong. You're gonna assume that it's gonna be spicy, right? So that's racist.
Is that
but
I
racist though?
don't think that is.
I don't know.
I think he's just making an assumption.
That's just
Maybe
cultural.
Well, that's all racism
Yeah, okay,
is.
all right.
Cultural intelligence.
What?
Or just like playing the odds, really.
I also was racist earlier when I said that was a white people thing.
Yeah, I
that
know.
there were guys getting naked with each other, but I still think it's white people.
Okay then.
Well,
I like the ad.
Yeah,
I feel good on them.
Do you think it's a risk though, as a marketer, to do that?
Look, I think everything you do is going to be a risk. It's about kind of choosing which risk is the right risk, I suppose. But I just think as a big brand like Nike, there will be a small minority of people who are jumping ship to Adidas or something.
Of course they just want publicity, Nick. It's an ad campaign.
Yeah. It's...
Nick is also racist. Assuming white people can't eat spicy food. That is untrue.
It's not that they can't. It's that you assume they don't want to because for some reason they like not having flavor in their food. Anyway.
It's pretty smart, like, historically. Like, you hope we're going to get better in terms of equality and stuff.
Well, I live in that hope because I do think that gradually we have gotten better, right? Right?
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. Yeah, things are
Like,
more
think
racist
about
before.
100 or 200 years ago.
Oh yeah, if you go that far
Well,
back,
that's
you've
what I'm
gone
saying.
pre-Civil
Like,
War.
as humanity, we are progressing,
Yes.
right?
Yes, I did actually hear a stat the other day that the whole world, like as a whole, the world is way less violent than it's ever been.
Yes.
Because of video games. But anyway,
Oh,
that's a different
don't
theory.
get me.
It's true, though.
I listened to your
Violence
theory on
has
the
gone
podcast, the
so
other
far
podcast.
down since the increase of violent video games.
It
You're
is-
making
It
that-
is
you're
not
making
because
this-
of video games.
You're making the same mistake that the people who blame video games for violence,
But the
is
opposite.
making, but in the opposite way,
Which is more reasonable, right?
no correlation and non-causation are two different things.
Yeah. People are
Okay,
less angry because they're chilled out playing video games.
That is untrue.
Because they get their aggression
It is-
out in
That
a
is
healthy
an
form.
unsubstantiated claim.
All right.
Okay.
I reckon nukes have probably helped.
Oh, do you think so?
The major powers of the world no longer go to war with each other,
I
which was a pretty regular feature of history going back.
I was just thinking maybe it was the internet. Like, like the world's kind of come closer together. There's more understanding now.
I think the drop was pre-internet age.
Okay.
It was
Anyway.
It was in the 90s sometime, I believe.
The drop in violence worldwide.
The start of it.
Yeah. Early 90s?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought just after World War II. Actually, that's not true. A lot of people died in the Soviet Union and
Well,
China.
Well, the idea in America was crime and violence was
There
rampant in the 80s.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
that was like,
heightened
but that's
in the 80s.
specifically American. This is like worldwide.
Oh, sorry.
everywhere.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think it's pretty smart because this exact image is going to be looked at for like 50 years.
Yeah.
And it
Mm.
says Nike, just do it on it.
Mm.
I think
So they've played the long game.
I think so. I think as a company, they've probably done the right thing.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
stock
I think
their
so.
stock dropped. Who
Because-
gives a crap? Like, that's not going to affect them in 10 years because the internet has 3 weeks worth of memory. Like, that
Yeah,
they're going to
exactly.
go straight back up.
I don't think stock dropping actually affects companies in any way.
Yeah.
that I can tell.
And
Yeah.
the whole, man, I think people like me, I'm going to remember this for ages because I think this is awesome.
Yeah.
That if you actually watch the whole video ad, it's super inspirational. It made me want to just do it, whatever that is. I guess.
You still find it funny.
Don't you remember in primary school when do it is like doing
Yes,
it was
of
just
course I
another
remember
way
that,
because
but-
you didn't want to say sex. Anyway,
Okay. What's next? Ev's topic, whichever one you want to do first.